Okay, hi everyone, welcome back, and in this update we are going to check out AVAX's price chart, and I think it's actually best to start by checking out weekly time frame and see what is going on in terms of candlestick patterns. Pay attention to these three candlesticks right in here. I think we can all agree that in this phase bears were actually in full control. Now at the moment, it seems like that we are actually having a decent green candlestick, which is definitely an optimistic sign. But in order for you to say with a bit more confidence that, yeah, you know what, maybe bulls are back, you need to see two very important things. Number one, you actually need to see a candle close, I would say bare minimum above this area in here, about $15.5. If we see a big green candlestick with a full body, that is going to be like an awesome sign. And in terms of candlestick patterns, we actually call this thing a bullish engulfing. The idea is that, let's say in this candle, excuse me, let's just actually zoom out a bit more. Okay, my drawings is getting a bit messy. There we go. So the idea in a bullish engulfing is that you essentially have a bit of a bearish candlestick in here. Let's just paint these ones red. There we go. And in this phase, bears are in full control until you hit some sort of a support area. Followed by that, you actually get a bit of a bounce. And if that bounce is strong enough, and by the end of the week, we are going to close somewhere around these areas, and this whole candlestick is actually going to be a green one, something like this. That means that most likely bulls actually do have the upper hand from this point moving forward. And point number two, this bullish engulfing pattern will actually get confirmed when we end up having the next candle also as a green one. So essentially what you want to see in AVAX in like very short term is actually a weekly candle close above this level around, let's say, $15.5 area. And number two, you want to see the next candlestick also getting closed as a green one, and that can be an optimistic sign, especially if in the next candle we manage to close it right around these areas inside of this important region, not necessarily under the lower band of it, about, let's say, $16 area. In like a really ideal scenario, I actually do not mind if I see like a big candle close in Avalanche. Maybe we are going to close our candle right in here about $17.5, and that, trust me, could be like an awesome sign suggesting, yeah, you know what, this is just a bit of a fake out, because this level is actually from weekly and daily time frame at the same time. And if you want to say that this is broken, you need to see an initial candle close in weekly time frame under here. So far so good, we absolutely have it, followed by a pullback and then a continuation of the move down in order to take the loss. And right now you might be able to say, okay, this is going to be our current move on the upside, just our pullback, and what's next? A continuation of the move down. However, if we actually close this candle right in here, the story I'm gonna say probably is going to be a little bit different. So in weekly chart, we might be seeing some optimistic signs. However, just in case, I would suggest maybe it's best to wait until the end of the week. And also the fact that in stock RSI, we are finally starting to get a buy signal, in my view, is yet another very bullish sign, indicating hopefully soon we are going to get a bit of a move up. But whether we are going to get our move from the current point or not, you know what, that can be up for debate. Let's go on H1 time frame. So actually no, let's go on daily time frame and remind ourselves why AVAX actually has such a great chart, and as per usual, why am I a big buyer around the lows? You see, in my view, in the long term, in Avalanche, starting from the lowest low down here about $8 back in September of 2023, we are having a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up, followed by a whole correction structure down, and it's probably, in my view, a WXY in form of a double zigzag. Let's zoom on more and count the waves. So this, in my opinion, is an ABC expanded flat into wave W. And if you are familiar with Elios waves, you might now scream at me and say, look, we are not allowed to have like an ABC expanded flat in case of a flat and a zigzag. But guess what? I actually want to be flexible with the rules. I don't really mind seeing something like this because I've seen these patterns playing out like way too many times. So this is an expanded flat into wave W followed by ABC zigzag up into our wave X, and from this point we are having another ABC on the downside into our wave Y. And let's go around here. You see, in an ABC zigzag we're gonna have sub waves like this: 5 down into A, correction for wave B, maybe ABC, maybe WXY, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave down into C. And if I just go on the live chart, there we go. So what do you have in here? I think we can all agree this is a clear-cut impulse: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave down into our A leg, followed by a WXY into wave B, and then another 5 wave on the downside into our C leg. So as you can see, in my view, there's actually like a very high chance that the current move down in Avalanche that we are having most likely is just going to be our last move on the downside, and then we can expect a rather good bounce. And even if you want to go with like a very pessimistic scenario, I think even at that point you are able to argue this is 5 up into A, this is flat and a zigzag into wave B, meaning what's next? You know it, another move up into C in order to at least take this high in here for the first target, about $63. And that's actually why I am so bullish on Avalanche around the lows. I think my risk to reward ratio in here makes perfect sense. Let's say I'm buying AVAX somewhere around $13.50. In that case, what's going to be my stop loss? Well, if you are looking for a midterm trade, naturally it's going to be under the lowest slowdown here, about, let's say, $8 region. Let's be a bit generous. So essentially I'm having, let's say, about like a $5 stop. On the other hand, what's going to be my target? I think bare minimum can be around the highs in here, about $66, meaning I'm having essentially like a $50 target, but on the other hand, a $5 stop. So my risk to reward ratio is what? You know it, 1 to 10. And that, I think we can all agree, is absolutely amazing. Also, if you do not like Helios waves, let's just say this. It seems like that starting from the highs about March of 2024, we have been in a move down. That's absolutely fine. But pay attention to just how fast we got this initial bounce off of the lows in Avalanche, and pay attention to how slow and terrible this move on the downside actually was. To me, this suggests bears don't really actually have a whole lot of power in this phase, and odds are bulls hopefully do still have the upper hand. And I'm really hoping that from the lows we are going to have a fantastic move on the upside. Now let's go on some lower time frames and see what is happening. So here's the deal. If you remember, the last time that we talked about Avalanche, we were right around, I think, these areas, and the idea was that I don't actually mind if I see another move on the downside, and this scenario will get confirmed if we go down and take this low about $12.8, since at that point, off of the lows in this phase, I'm not really going to be able to find an impulsive structure, indicating, yep, you know what, this is just a correction and our move down is going to continue. Now, what happened? We actually got a move on the upside. So I guess the question is right now time to celebrate? I'm going to argue maybe it is, but at the same time, we should be still a little bit more patient and careful. You see, in terms of Helios waves, if you want to argue that we have hit the lows right in here, then okay, show me off of the lowest low a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside. This specific structure is called an impulsive movement. Rules for it are: we should not have overlapping of the waves between wave 2 and 4, and in any kind of 5 wave or wave 3, excuse me, right in here should not be the smallest wave. And in terms of the sub waves, you know it, we're gonna have 5 wave up into wave 1, 3, and 5, and for wave 2 and 4 we can have different counts. Doesn't really matter a whole lot. Let's say, sure, WXY into 4 and maybe an ABC structure into wave 2. Now let's go on the live chart and see what is happening. Okay, so here is what's going on in my mind. I'm thinking probably from this point we are having a wave 1 correction for 2, and then maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into wave 3 correction for 4, another move into wave 5, and this thing on a higher degree, it's going to be into this wave 3, and I want to see actually preferably in here a bit of a pullback into our wave 4, followed by another move up into wave 5 in order to bare minimum reach to about the lower band of this region, about $15.9. And if we go like a bit higher, that would be actually like really ideal. Now, even if we end up having this 5-wave up, it's not necessarily going to be time to call the absolute lows in here with a lot of confidence. No. Question for you: what happens after a 5-wave up? Even if you want to go according to the most bullish scenario, you know it, we're gonna have a bit of a move on the downside, but this move has to have certain characteristics, and chief among them is being a slow and choppy, and between our pullbacks up, you have to be able to find constantly overlapping of the waves. So here is what's going on in my mind. I think this move can continue a little bit more, which could be definitely an optimistic sign. Do not get it twisted, but I'm actually going to wait for a move down and then check out the shape of it. And by that time, we are going to make new updates and see what is happening. And if in here we identify the right subwaves, maybe at that point we should count on a great move on the upside. But right now, here is my advice. I think you should actually mentally prepare for a bit of a move on the downside in order to take the lowest slowdown here, about $12.50. So if it happens, you're not going to be surprised at all. If it doesn't happen, you're actually going to be pleasantly surprised. And hopefully from here, we are going to see like a fantastic move up and prove that this was just a simple fake out. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Avalanche. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.